Hey YouTube, Twig here, bringing you all an update to my Gusto Yu-Gi-Oh! Deck profile for March 2025. Wanted to update the Gusto deck. This is definitely an overlooked deck from the Hidden Arsenal or Dual Terminal storyline. A Synchro Psychic deck that focuses on being able to have a consistent special summon for your lower level Gusto monsters and then use the higher level ones to be able to shuffle back those cards for more of a destruction playstyle setup power, and then even being able to, OTK your opponent by inflicting battle damage using your weaker Gusto monsters as well. So happy with the updates I've made to the deck profile since the last update. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get started with the deck profile. So we'll go ahead and start off with the main deck monsters. For the Gusto monsters, we're running 3 copies of Winda, Priestess of Gusto. When it's destroyed by battle with an opponent's attacking monster and sent to the graveyard, you can special summon 1 Gusto tuner from your deck. So this is the big thing with the Gusto monsters. They all play into special summoning one another from the deck, depending on which one was destroyed and how it was destroyed. So being able to have Winda be destroyed by an opponent's attacking monster gives you access to one of your Gusto tuners in the deck as well, which we do run a good number of different Gusto tuners. But before we get to the other tuners, I figure we would just discuss one other monster in the deck. That monster being Pilica, Descendant of Gusto. This card just helps to extend your synchro or extra deck plays in general. When it's normal or special summon, you can target 1 wind tuner monster in graveyard, special summon that target, and face up defense. Its effects are negated. If you activate this effect, you cannot special summon monsters for the rest of the turn, except for wind monsters. So while it does lock you into just wind monsters, you can use Pilica to just grab an additional tuner and then go into your variety of different Gusto synchro monsters using the tuner and herself on the field. And she's also just a level 3 psychic monster, so you can summon her out with cards like Emergency Teleport and still get her special summon play. For the other tuner Gusto monsters, we're running 3 copies of Gusto Ghoul, another one of the floaters. When it's destroyed by battle and sent to the graveyard, you can special summon 1 non-tuner level 4 Gusto monster from your deck. So you can go for the added option of cards like Pilica or even our Winda for both of the targets being non-tuner to special summon off of Gusto Ghoul. The 3 copies of our Gusto Vidir, one of the newer cards in the deck. If a face-up Gusto monster on the field is destroyed by battle or sent to the graveyard, you can special summon this card from your hand. If this card is normal or special summon, you can send 1 Gusto monster from your deck to the graveyard. Then you can special summon 1 Gusto monster from your hand, giving you more access to cards in your hand as more of a way just to build more of a wall, because the Gusto monsters aren't, hard once per turns or soft once per turns. You just have to have that destruction play and the proper card to go into for the special summon. So if you could summon out a whole new Gusto monster on the field, you can start that chain as well thanks to Gusto Vidir. One of the better Gusto monsters is Gusto Guldo. When this card is sent from the field to the graveyard, you can special summon 1 level 2 or lower Gusto monster from your deck, just giving you access to a Gall and Winda with the added options of special summoning out Guldo and having less of a restriction for how it has to be sent from the field to the graveyard, with our Gall having to be battle and then Winda being our opponent's battle and then Guldo just being sent to the graveyard. So added options for these cards to send the proper card effects to the graveyard to use. And also the 3 copies of Gusto Griffin to finish off our 3 ofs for the Gusto monsters. If it's sent from the hand to the graveyard, you can special summon 1 Gusto monster from your deck, giving you more special summon plays as well. Just being able to have this play off of Gusto Vidir, because you use Vidir to send 1 Gusto monster from your deck to the graveyard. So with this card being able to have that added option for that play, using the setup for our Griffin onto the field as another level non-2 monster, or just the added playstyle for us to use Gusto Griffin with our other send options that we run in the deck as well, depending on the card we use it for. And then also the 1 Cam Serenity of Gusto. This is more or less a draw power card, being able to return 2 Gusto monsters from your graveyard to the deck to draw 1 card. So you can even just summon her off of Gusto Ghoul, and that's why we're running just the 1 of copy, because we can use a Ghoul to summon out Cam, and then after surviving the battle attack, use her to shuffle back some of the other Gusto monsters that, maybe have built up in the graveyard to give us more of a draw, and placing those monsters back into the deck also. We're also running 3 copies copies of Win the Wind Chandler. I like this card just for the added search power, being able to discard this card and one other wind monster, which is the majority of what we run in the main deck to begin with, to then be able to add one wind monster with 1500 or less defense from our deck to our hand, which is still the majority of the cards we run in the main deck to be able to use with her as well. And then for one of the better plays to do with cards like Daigusto Freeze, which is our go-to for being able to use our weaker monsters to destroy our opponent, I run a small Kaiju engine, so 2 copies of Jizukiru and 2 copies of Radiant. The higher attack Kaijus are the better, because then you want your weaker Gusto monsters to be able to swing into those monsters, because then with Daigusto Freeze, you'll be hitting your opponent for all that damage that you would have taken. For the spells, we are running 3 copies of Emergency Teleport, just being able to grab the good majority of the psychic monsters we run in the deck, whether it be our Winda or, more importantly, our Pilica. We can use this spell to special summon out those monsters to the field and then make use of either their card effects or their destruction capabilities as well. We're also running the 3 copies of Tailwind of Gusto. You equip only to a Gusto monster. The equipped monster cannot be destroyed by your opponent's card effects. You can only use each of the following effects of Tailwind once per turn. You can banish this card from your graveyard and discard 1 wind monster to add 1 Gusto spell or trap from your deck to your hand. You can only use this effect based on the level or rank of the equipped monster. 4 or lower, you can special summon 1 Gusto monster from your deck with a different type than the equipped monster, or 5 or higher, special summon 1 level tuner from your deck, being able to grab the tuner monster or the Gusto monster with a different type. So then our Gusto monsters are wing beasts, so depending on the type, we can then grab psychic or vice versa. The discard also helps to set up our Gusto Griffin for an additional special summon, being the card to discard off of Tailwind to do so. And then we're also running 2 copies of Creature Swap. This can give us one of our opponent's better monsters while giving them one of our weaker Gusto monsters for us to be able to attack into, destroy, it go to our graveyard, and then give us the special summon back of the monster of choice we want. Also running 2 copies of Forbidden Droplet, just more of a means to get rid of some of our opponent's monster effects by using our additional Gusto monsters we may have built up as the resource to do so. And for the one-ofs, I run 1 Miracle Synchro Fusion. I'm still a really big fan of this card, being able to go into some of our bigger fusion monsters in the extra deck by using our Psychic Synchro monsters. The 1/1-for-1 is just another way to grab Gusto a Ghoul onto the field, and the 1 Call by the Grave to stop any monsters in our opponent's graveyard, like their hand traps that may shut down any of our special summons. With the traps being the 1 copy of Whirlwind of Gusto. If you control no monsters, target 2 Gusto monsters in your graveyard, shuffle both into the deck, then special summon 1 Gusto monster with 1000 or less defense from your deck. So if our opponent gets around any of our play strategies, we can at least shuffle back some Gusto monsters to give us a special summon of 1 on the field, giving us once again that wall of protection in the form of a trap and a 1/of trap that can be searched with our equip spell. For the extra deck, we're running the 1 copy of Daigusto Guldos, the level 5 Synchro. Once per turn, you can shuffle 2 Gusto monsters from your graveyard into the main deck, target a face-up monster your opponent controls, and destroy it. It's just a once per turn destruction effect, a level 5 easier Synchro monster to be able to go into as well. The 2 copies of Daigusto Freeze. This is the card that, once again, sets up your OTK strategy. When it's Synchro Summon, you can target 1 Gusto monster or card in your graveyard, add that target to your hand. Your opponent takes any battle damage you have taken from battles involving face-up Gusto monsters you control, and this card cannot be destroyed by battle. So that includes Freeze herself, being able to swing into that monster. But the big play is to get your weaker Gusto monsters on the field to then swing into your opponent's monsters, destroying those cards, and then just giving you special summon after special summon to swing into your opponent, and then they take the damage. We're also running 2 copies of Daigusto Lampampilica, another level 6 Synchro. You can only special summon Lampampilica once per turn. If it's Synchro Summon, you can special summon 1 Gusto monster from your hand and 1 Gusto monster from your deck, but negate their effects. Then immediately after this effect resolves, Synchro Summon 1 Gusto Synchro monster using only those 2 monsters. Also, you cannot special summon for the rest of the turn, except for wind monsters, and your opponent cannot target other Gusto Synchros you control with card effects. So adding extra protection to cards like Freeze that cannot be destroyed by battle, and this card is just a good way to get this Synchro or our other option onto the field using monsters from our deck and hand as resources. For more of the generic Synchros, the 1 copy of Clearwing, the 1 Excel Synchro Stardust Dragon, the 1 Crystal Wing, along with the 1 Stellar Wind Wolfrayet for the wind options to not be locked out of when we use Pilica. For the Link monsters, the 1 copy of Win the Wind Chandler, the 1 High Speed Roid Rubber Band Shooter, the 1 Relinquished Anima, and the 1 Nightmare Unicorn, along with the 1 Underworld Goddess to finish off the Link monsters in the deck, with our Fusion being the ultimate Axon Kicker to use with our Miracle Synchro Fusion play. And then as for some of the go-to plays in the deck, as I said, the Gusto Wall is a big one that you can rely on. If your opponent destroys your Guldo, you can then use the Guldo to summon out a level 2 or lower monster, being our Gaul. A Gaul gets destroyed, you can then use that play to summon out our Winda. And then if Winda is destroyed, you can summon out the Gusto Tuner, and then you can just start the whole loop again to special summon that Tuner from your deck by grabbing your Gusto Gaul for that other play, and then continue on from there. You have a wall to keep going into, building up Gusto monsters in your graveyard to use, because once those cards are in the graveyard, you can summon out, whether through E-Tally or a normal summon, your Pilica, and then Pilica can grab either one of the tuners that you have in the graveyard for a link play, or that additional synchro play to be able to go into as well. If she was your special summon for the turn, since you can summon her off of Emergent Teleport, you can go for Gusto Freeze, use Freeze to grab your monster back from the graveyard, and then that can be your normal summon to use to then swing into your opponent's monsters to start off that destruction loop that I mentioned before again as well. But that is it for the deck profile. I hope you all enjoyed. Like I said, this is a deck that's been a while since I last updated. It definitely could use some new support, but always like to update it when I can. And as always, until next time, please don't forget to leave a like and subscribe, and Kira Twig out.